Hi, I'm Sarah. This is
Kelsey.
and we're about to do a film review on 12 Years a Slave. So 12 Years a Slave is a film that came out in 2014, won some awards. It's a film set in the 1800s, mid-1800s I think, and it's about a man named Solomon Northup. He was a black man, but he was a free man, and he was living in New York City with his family, young family. He owned his own home, and for a career he was a professional violinist. Solomon had the opportunity to travel for work, do a work travel to Washington, where he took that opportunity up, and when he was down there performing, he was captured and kidnapped, placed in, I think he was then shipped to New Orleans, and then that he was sold as a slave, and that's how the story begins. And this is a memoirs of his.
Yeah, speaking of the beginning, like Sarah was saying, he started off a free man, and that's what the movie portrayed in every way. With the lighting, there were higher and brighter tones to the movie because it signified a happier time in his life, where he was playing violin for musical enjoyment and because of something that he loved and it was on his heart, and you could tell when he played the violin he enjoyed imparting that onto people, and there was just a sense of ease and pleasure and delight, as well as, of course, enjoyment, like I've said, when it came to his life up north in New York. But I guess the first scene of the movie is technically a flashback to when he was a slave, and the tones in that were drastically different. It was darker, and there was a bluish yellow glow to even see the people. You couldn't even make him out in the room amongst the slaves unless there was a glow on him. I loved when Sarah said during the movie, she's like, wow, this is like desperation, and it just felt like it was just desperate environment, and they really communicated that well with the visual choices. His clothing, how he, like the costumes that they had when he was in the north, it was buttoned up, he was proper, he was wearing jackets that, folded over, and top hats. And then when they were slaves, it was rags, whatever clothes that they could find.
So at the beginning of the movie, you see both contrasts, and so instantly you're just captured into the scene because you're looking at the same man in two completely different environments, freedom and then slavery. And so you're instantly taken into that place.
Yeah, it's like you're actually seeing two sides of his heart.
Yeah.
Because he loved his family, like Sarah said. He had a beautiful young family, loved his wife. And in that first scene when he's in that room with the slave woman next to him, you just see a different side of his heart and a different side of what like the sexual temptations were, because they were so far removed from their loved ones. It never took away from his desperation for his family and his want to be home and have intimacy with them.
Yeah, I think that was one of the main parts in the movie that really emphasized to me how desperate he was to hold on to his identity, to hold on to his freedom in despite of the circumstances that he faced. He knew deep down who he really was, and in that moment he could have easily lost who he was. Due to the severe temptation and struggles that he was facing, but he clung on to that hope in such bad times. So that was a good to start. It was good to start off with that because it emphasised it for the rest of the movie. You got to see him outplay that throughout his journey, but that was a core emphasis in clinging on to who he really was.
Yeah, that word hope, he said, I don't want to survive, I want to live. And that was a real defining moment. I think we both kind of jumped at that during the movie when he said that, because he wrestled with being a slave. He knew he wasn't meant to be there, yet he was amongst all of these people that they grew up in it, they were born into it. they lived in the South and grew up in the South, and so he's somebody that's from the North, not even meant to be there. It's a lot like Jesus in a way.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus came down to earth and humbled himself, and although this wasn't technically his decision to be captured and to go down south, he was somebody who knew his right standing, but was in the wrong place. And so, yeah, just the fact that he said, I don't want to survive, I want to live, shows that he has his worldview on what life isn't just about surviving. It's not about the work and the toil that the slaves were accustomed to, which that reminds us, of Genesis. We were talking about that before we started this, and how before and after the fall, the curse was that we would have to toil and work to the ground, and no longer, we kind of lost part of our dominion.
Yeah.
That was our original intent, and so it's interesting how the movie had so many biblical themes to it, and so many scriptures used, like the masters of some of the plantations. They used scripture to justify their actions, but it was completely twisted. It was like under the curse still, but they weren't operating out of the freedom that Jesus brought on the cross. And so you could just tell that Platt was he was about that. He was about finding out what life really was. Yeah. And until Brad Pitt's character came into the story, the man of the word, the one who knew what the Bible actually said and meant, you didn't see that. You just saw the toil, and you saw the hardship, and you saw Platt struggling to hold on to what was true and real to him. But yeah, until that character came in and started saying biblical truths and shining light on what it's really supposed to look like, was when the movie started to take a turn.
Yeah, definitely. There was a real problem, I guess, and we still face it today. I think slavery is even largest now than what it has ever been. And what I loved about this movie is it was in all the cinemas. It's a blockbuster hit. It was huge, and it didn't brush over anything in relation to slavery. It was quite dry, quite raw in its approach. So very realistic. It was certainly at times hard to watch, but I think in today's society, with different formats of slavery occurring, it was really good to shine light on the brutal reality of slavery, that people are not objects, and we certainly have that warped environment that we are living in still, and the story's portrayed really well. I think it's easier for our viewers to witness this now, 100 years or so from its occurrence, because it doesn't relate to us today in the format that it is revealed, but it does shine light on the problem of slavery as well, the issue that we face mainly today is sex slavery, which is violating people in an even worse way, I guess. So I it was really good in a movie that it revealed fight. It revealed trying to hold on to your identity, and I think Solomon did a really good job at that. Like the courage and strength to keep doing that for over a 12-year period was quite inspirational.
Yeah. I love what you said about drawing a blank for a second, but I love what you said about how brutal it was, and how sometimes we need that. We need to see that, especially in this world, because we can, fall pretty immune, or we can say ignorance is bliss, when it comes to these things that we don't want to know. We know what's happening, but we don't want to know what it's like. It reminds me of Jesus on the cross. That was brutal, but it wakes people up. It shows you what's actually happening. And we all respond in different ways, but to show something and how it actually happened. Especially growing up in America, we have learned about slavery since we were in primary school. It's part of our country's history, and we're not proud of it, and it's not something, or I'm not proud of it. It's not something that we like to admit about ourselves. But the contrast between the North and the South is a very real thing. And yeah, just understanding the importance of unity and what that means. I think the end of the movie was beautiful, and how he finally got reunited with his family, and how actually somebody from the North came to get him. It's as if, like, you know, if we compare it to the Bible, it's like God taking his son back, the Father taking back the Son. The guy came from the North, got him back.
The shepherd never loses his sheep.
Yeah. He brought him back to his home, and it was an adjustment. I'm sure it looked like that anyways. And he asked his family for forgiveness, which is beyond me. I never expected that. I was like, no, you're home, like, but just his heart reminds me of Psalm 51. He kept it clean. Yeah. Your heart can grow hard. Yeah. In everyday life, and especially in that situation, I think that they showed through that movie, they communicated that this is a man who kept his heart clean no matter what he went through, and it was brutal.
I think I really value this movie. I think it's, in today's society, it's really important to be this realistic on such important topics. And I think this movie has done a very good job at revealing that. Yeah, so I give it 5 stars. 5 stars.
I like that. Without the R, 5 stars.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it for us.
Great, thank you.